To whom I may concern is a traveling stage upon which people with dementia of whatever type share personal stories of life after the diagnosis. Over the years, men and women from the United States, from New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, Utah, and Hawaii, have stepped on this stage to tell the story of dementia from their unique perspective as a person diagnosed. Today, 4 more people from Canada and the United States will step on that stage to share their stories. Sue Stephen is from British Columbia, Canada. From the USA, we have Joe Potocny from California, John Sandblom from Iowa, and Jan Pitts from Oklahoma. They have been meeting online for several months and are just about ready to share with you their own stories. Let's listen in.
Well, here we are again. How's everybody? Are we any closer to being ready to meet our audience?
We've been talking about what it's like to live with Alzheimer's for a while now. Time to put it all together. Anybody have a suggestion?
I can hardly make sense of my experience with dementia for myself, let alone explain it to somebody else.
We've got to try. People need to hear from us while we can still get the words out. If we don't talk about living with dementia, other people will speak for us. We've got to get our voice out there. We've got to speak up if we want to be part of the conversation.
Have you heard that they have simulation programs to help people experience dementia? That just makes me crazy when I hear that stuff. How can anybody know what it's like to be inside my body? How can anyone know what it's like to feel you are losing pieces of yourself and it's only going to get worse? You can't simulate that.
Part of the problem is that we don't have the language for sharing the experience. People who have cancer or heart disease can talk about it. They talk about pain, chemo, losing your hair, and being exhausted. They have words for their illness that the public can understand. But for Alzheimer's disease, we just don't have the words.
Well, here's how I talk about it with people. I say, if you want to understand Alzheimer's disease, come on over to my side of the fence. I'll tell you what it's like.
Anybody ever take you up on your invitation?
Nope. People don't want to know about what we go through. They're very happy right where they are on their side of the fence.
That's a good way to think about our experience, Joe. A fence. When you get diagnosed, you do find yourself on the other side of the fence, separate from people. Makes me think about how fences lose their pickets as time passes. There's more disarray, holes, pieces getting lost. Sounds like what happens as the dementia progresses.
When you get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, it feels sometimes like the world puts me behind a fence. I have to admit that sometimes I put myself on the other side for safety. It's so easy for me to get on overload these days. I just want to retreat to my room and close the door.
Looks like a fence might work for us to tell our story. It got us talking, so maybe it will get our audience talking. Or better yet, listening. Remind me who the audience will be?
Oh, the audience will be some of the people who are involved in our lives now that we have been diagnosed. Our husbands, wives, partners, family, friends, as well as the health people and special workers and community people.
And don't forget the people who have been diagnosed recently. Some of them will be in the audience. We want to make sure that they know they are not alone and that we are here to support them. I started a support group online, so I know people need to connect with other people going through the same thing.
If they're in the audience, I hope they will speak up. We need to change the face of dementia. Right now, people automatically think of the later stages of Alzheimer's.
Exactly. When I hear people talk about Alzheimer's, They always seem to talk about the time when the caregiver takes over and the person diagnosed is totally dependent on them. That is definitely at a later stage, and we know that is in our future. We don't have our heads in the sand, but it's not where we are right now. We're at the beginning, the early stage.
So our hope then is that the audience will understand what the beginning of dementia is like. The uncertainty, the ups and downs, the fears, the isolation. There's so much that we go through and want people to understand. And maybe if people understood, we wouldn't have this fence. We wouldn't be in our own world. Our care partner could walk beside us instead of in front of us.
I'm not as optimistic as you are, maybe because I've been trying to break down the barriers for a while. I have a blog for years, and I was on that HBO special on Alzheimer's. I keep trying to get the word out about what life is like in the early stage, but so far I haven't seen any big changes in our image. We're still clumped together with everyone who has Alzheimer's. Like I always say, if you've met one person with Alzheimer's, you've met one person with Alzheimer's. We're all unique.
You can say that again.
If you met one person, I'll say it as often as you want, if it will make a difference. Maybe I'm not optimistic, but I haven't given up yet. Are we set with what we want to say? We've got to make the most of our stage time.
To start, could we stop using the word Alzheimer's? I don't have Alzheimer's. I have frontotemporal dementia, FTD, and so do you, Joe.
That's true for me, too. I don't have Alzheimer's. I've been diagnosed with posterior cortical atrophy, PCA. It was hard enough getting the diagnosis that fit the symptoms. We have all been misdiagnosed sometime. PCA is pretty rare.
You support what I just said. If you've met one person with Alzheimer's, you've met one person. I'll change that to one person with dementia, though that word isn't any kinder to us. Sounds like we are a bunch of zombies.
We agree that our brains have all been affected differently, but the impact on our lives is similar. Dementia isn't a friendly word, but it includes us all.
See what I mean about language? We're reduced to letters like PCA or TFB or CA or AD, and nobody has a clue what we're talking about. The word dementia includes all of us, but that doesn't say anything about our struggles. My visual symptoms are very different from you. We are all clumped together. I hate clumping. But let's get started. The audience is here. The stage is ours.
Welcome, everyone, to our side of the fence where we live every day. This is no simulation, no gimmicks, just our personal stories of living with dementia. Stories are how we make sense of what it's like for us.
I like that, John. Stories are the way we connect with each other. Maybe the language that we can use to talk about dementia. Caregivers have stories about their lives and the changes. Professionals have stories about their research and the advice on how to manage us. But unfortunately, these are the only stories that the world hears about dementia. We have stories about living with dementia. This is our chance to get our stories out there.
That makes me think that I should ask caregivers and professionals to check their stories at the gate, sort of suspend their experience so they can really hear ours.
I get it. Before you come over to our side of the fence, leave your degrees and assumptions behind. Many of you have spent years learning about us. And don't get me wrong, we're grateful for your support and dedication, but a mental status exam or a microscope doesn't tell you everything about us. We are more than our symptoms.
This isn't going to be easy for some of our audience because they are used to talking for us. Leaving their experience behind will be hard. We should reassure them that after their time with us, they can pick up their degrees and experience on the way out.
On our side of the fence, our degrees don't mean too much. People don't trust our judgment anymore. So what good are our degrees and experiences?
I just thought of a game we could play with the audience. Guess which one of us was a charter member of Mensa? That's good for our image.
Okay, we've done the welcome and the audience is through the gate. Now what?
Lock it.
What?
Yes, lock the gate. Welcome to our world. That's what it's like when you get your diagnosis. The gate shuts behind you. Everything you planned for your future ends in that moment. If you had a career, if you had plans for retirement, for travel, or maybe watching your children or grandchildren grow up, they are gone in the snap of a finger or the click of a gate, locked behind you. We have all found ourselves in a new, frightening world.
Our side of the fence is not pretty. When that gate shuts, the way I see it, we start dying.
You don't want to scare them off, Joe.
I just want to tell it like it is. I had people say to me, well, Joe, we're all dying. Why do people say that? You wouldn't say that to a person that has stage 4 lung cancer, would you? When we get a diagnosis of dementia, no matter what kind, we know that our lives are headed downhill. There's no cure for us. Cure might be for other people, but not for us. I pray that day comes.
People wonder how one handles getting this news. Well, let me tell you that some go to pieces, some cry, some get angry, some wonder why me, etc.
Me, I just said, thanks. Now you have confirmed what I have thought for the past 10 years or so. See, for 10 years I was given lots of answers by doctors. First they said, Joe, you're right. You're just depressed. Then later they said, Joe, you're distracted. You have ADD. And then finally they said, you know, Joe, I think the real problem is stress. So I decided to make it official. I call it DDSS, or Depressed Distracted Stress Syndrome. I've tried to get them to include it in the new DSM-5. I'm not the only one who has been given this diagnosis. I have found over the years that many people with dementia have been going through the same annoying diagnosis when they know the doctor was off the beam, so to speak, if not outright crazy. To be validated with a diagnosis of FTD was a relief to me, not a blow to my life. Actually, being given this death sentence relieved me from some of the fears of death. See, I never feared dying, but I did fear death from a heart attack or that nanosecond between life and death, as we call it. But suddenly, that no longer bothered me. It just went the way of a windstorm. Poof.
The first month after I got my diagnosis, I talked to my husband about it only. I was in shock. My mother had died only 3 months previous to that of Alzheimer's. I had been her caregiver, and now I was going to be the one to receive help. I couldn't talk to anyone, my kids, my friends. I wanted to wait until I was in a different space. But my son knew something was up, and that I had been on the computer a lot doing research. He checked my search history and saw the dementia sites that I had been visiting. So I guess it was time for a family reunion. We told them that they would be looked after and they could ask any questions they wanted of me. But it was the hardest thing I think I have ever done.
When we get our diagnosis, our lives began a major reorientation. All of us were moving along in our careers, enjoying our families and friends, planning for the future. And then all of a sudden we hit a wall. I was 43 when I first started with symptoms and I had to leave my career.
I had hardly peaked in my work in sales. I was 46 when I had the first inclination that something was wrong. My dad had this too, and I can remember my mom saying, "He's losing it." Now it's me that's losing it.
We never thought it would happen to us. Brain disease with no cure. In an instant, everything vanished. Our work, our future, our place in the world, everything except us. We didn't vanish. So if you listen to the way some people talk about us, you would think we have.
Let me tell you what happened the other day. I think you'll understand what we mean when we say we feel invisible to people. I went to buy a car with my wife the other day, and it came up that I'm on disability. The finance manager that was helping us asked why, and I said, I have a brain disease, atypical Alzheimer's. She just sat there, stunned, for quite some time, and then she stammered a bit and asked if she could ask me a question. And I said, sure, ask me anything you want. She said, I'd never in a million years think that you had Alzheimer's. She was completely stunned and completely amazed. It flies in the face of what people think when they hear the word Alzheimer's. It always blows me away that people haven't had much direct experience. All they can visualize is someone in a nursing home who can't communicate, not someone younger or earlier in the illness. People have a very narrow understanding of this disease.
You know, you don't just wake up one day and you're in a nursing home with dementia. And yet, that's the image of dementia that most people have. Articles and social media focus on the end stage. Communication is to or at the person with dementia, never with. I read a headline for an article the other day that said, in Alzheimer's, no never means no. Making that blanket statement really bothers me. Almost everything you read is referring to people with dementia in the later stages. Believe me, I may have dementia, but when I say no, I mean no. When people hear this kind of message, they think it applies to everyone with dementia.
I listened to a presentation the other day about Alzheimer's and wandering. Someone made the statement that all our mothers and fathers were wandering around in the wild getting lost. What are we going to do? We need to call in the police. God, it sounded biblical. Wandering around in the wilderness? I wanted to throw up. I wanted to shout. They are walking. They are taking a walk.
That may be a common symptom, but it is by no means a universal symptom. My father never ever wandered.
I heard a story recently about a woman who was caring for her husband, and she hadn't let him out of the house since he was diagnosed. When she was asked why, she said that wandering was one of the symptoms of dementia, and they told her to keep an eye on him. The poor man, he's a prisoner.
I love wandering. I call it going to take a walk. I'm curious about this wandering thing because that's how I think things out. When I told my friends about my diagnosis, we went for a walk and talked while we walked. How will I be able to do this later in my illness? Walking is a basic human right.
I said it before, and I'll say it again. If you met one person with Alzheimer's, I mean dementia, you've met one person with dementia. I think our visitors get the message that we are all unique in how our lives get messed up by dementia. You can't clump us together. We're frustrated, angry, scared. And did I say angry? I'm real angry, which doesn't always make me a nice person to be around. I feel sorry for my wife.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Not your anger, Joe, but about what the day-to-day is like for us on this side of the fence. I would say the biggest thing that has changed for me is getting across what I want to say. Communication is a big challenge. Rose, my partner, will get me to slow down and think about the words. I know what I want to say, but it just doesn't come out. It does help when I slow down.
I worry that I'm going to have trouble with words right now, with our audience.
Maybe it would be good for them to witness some people who have some smarts, like you, Sue, who like to talk and teach, and how this disease makes it difficult for you. The audience needs to see how people just like themselves, and even maybe smarter than they are, have been screwed up by this disease.
We want to be real, but at the same time, we don't want to look like bumbling idiots.
Good point, John, but I really am a bumbling idiot. But seriously, a problem I have is hearing something different from what is said, and then I respond according to what I heard. This is becoming a point of contention in my household.
Me too, Joe. Something doesn't register right, and I have to ask them to repeat what they said. And if I answer according to what I heard, they say, "What?" And then all kinds of confusion begins.
Communication is a bigger problem for me than memory. I drop words. For someone who likes to talk, I'm finding it very frustrating. I have tried to slow down, like you said, Jan. I consciously slow down, but it's very hard for me because my mind is going faster. So my mind is going one speed, and speech is going another. How do you talk to people with all that going on?
That really makes me feel disconnected. I feel like a fool when I finally get my thoughts into a conversation and it's too late. They've already moved on.
Oh, John, you write very fluently online.
But I'm a talker.
Me too. And on top of that, I try to write notes to myself, but I can't read my own writing.
I type with my eyes shut, and then I'm happily surprised that the spelling is okay.
My computer keeps substituting words. Actually, people do the same thing, suggesting words when I can't find it. It's bad enough that I can't find the right word without being rained down words on me.
My wife has started to do something like that too. It drives me crazy. I'll be trying to get my thoughts together to say something, and she goes ahead and finishes my sentence, and it was totally different from what I was trying to say. Sometimes it screws me up so much that I can't get out what I really wanted to say. Please don't assume what I was going to say.
What would you like people to do when you can't find a word or get stuck in a sentence?
Just give me a minute.
I agree. Just give me a minute.
Here's what helps me. I've started talking out loud to myself. Thinking to myself isn't enough. I have to say it. They're going to be calling out the men in the white coats for me soon. I'm not losing my mind. I sold it on eBay.
I've always done that too, talked out loud. I've always had 1,000 things going on in my head. It helps me to talk my way through things. Out loud, I say to myself, now I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. It's quite useful.
Sometimes it's the best conversation you have all day. We're really pretty good listeners.
I handle all this communication stuff by withdrawing. This is hard on my partner. She and I have been together for 20 years. She gets pretty lonely even when we're sitting on the same couch. I can't follow a TV show for more than 30 minutes, and I always feel 2 questions behind in a conversation. It's pretty lonely for me, too.
Don't you think that withdrawal is a self-defense from overload, Jan?
I do. Sensory overload is a big problem for me. Family gatherings can be painful. I just went to one and couldn't get home fast enough. I know now that I have to visit with a few family or friends at a time, though even then I have problems. I find myself wishing a friend would come over, and then when she gets here, I'm at a loss for words.
When I'm overwhelmed, I go to my room, then I come down in my PJs, which is a signal that it's time for everyone to get out, go home.
I don't think that would be Jan's style. Jan, can't you just explain to your partner and your family what's happening to you? Can't you tell them that you get overwhelmed?
No, I can't. I just escape.
Jan, I'm feeling your isolation. I plan to become your worst nightmare. I'm going to call you every day.
Thanks, but if you get a dial tone, you'll understand.
I think our audience has just witnessed a slice of our life. We have challenges, we get angry and frustrated. We withdraw, we feel a little less a part of the regular world and more just in our own little world. When you're diagnosed, you understand, but it's hard to adequately explain it to others. I sure wouldn't have understood it without experiencing it. That's why it's so important that we have each other for understanding and support.
Some days I feel muted. The sun is hiding behind clouds, and I don't know whether I want to cry or be angry or run around in circles. I can't settle to do anything. So I share with you because I know you guys will understand.
And to return to our theme, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person only. All of us experience this time in our lives differently. Personally, I get frustrated and I know the problems I have managing day to day, but I can't communicate my feelings to anyone around me. Maybe that's what we should share with our visitors now. After we get the diagnosis, what is life like? For me, while I don't just sit around feeling sorry for myself, I find myself feeling very apathetic. I can't set my mind to do anything. And I can't even explain it to my partner, Rose. I don't necessarily want Rose to know what I'm going through. I don't want to worry her.
After the diagnosis and during the early days of living with dementia, I want to stay involved in life. It took me a year to actually be able to think about what was happening to me, to look at the future and get some perspective. I think I am much more realistic now and that I can help others. But not all organizations want to include those with dementia into their decision-making.
Now you're touching on a sensitive area. Why don't people listen to us? Why do people treat us different once they know we have dementia? I've had the experience of talking eye to eye with somebody and then something is mentioned about me being diagnosed and they start to ignore me and just talk to my wife. You feel like the biggest nothing.
I can see it in their eyes, I can see it in their words and the way they look at you.
For a long time, I was very private about my diagnosis. For that very reason, people treat you differently. Some people, not all, but some people do. I see it from old friends that shy away from me and make sure they don't have much interaction with me. They're just not sure. I can hear them saying, you know, he has a brain disease.
This is what's behind the reason why people don't listen to us. Basically, it's because they don't trust our judgment. In their heart of hearts, when they cross that line, they don't believe our judgment is any good. For example, I want to be part of policy making for dementia. I have 30 years in government. I know how it works. I know who the people are. But when I want to ask them for it, they just don't answer. There's no response. Perhaps all they want is a little story.
Okay, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Brain fart. People don't want to hear the truth. Our lips get stapled. I have emails from organizations that say they don't want me to speak because they don't like the way I talk about my experience. Some people with dementia have toned down what they say in order to be acceptable. I can understand that, but I won't do it. I feel that it's important to give a voice to our experience and connect with others without being censored. Blogging is one way to do that. I have thousands of people that connect with me through my blog, and while sometimes that can be a pain, mostly it keeps me going.
I started a Facebook group for people with dementia. This is a lifeline for a lot of people who don't have support locally. The group is for dementia patients only, which gives people a chance to share openly.
Changing the image of people with dementia has become a real mission for one of my friends. She's a nurse. She knew what was ahead when she was diagnosed at age 59. She felt she'd be more comfortable making mistakes or doing something silly among people who knew her. She asked her local newspaper to do an article on her experience, and she also started teaching people around town to be more tolerant. This is all part of the dementia-friendly cities movement that is strong in Europe.
I saw an interview with her on TV, Jan. A local shopkeeper said that her gutsy moves opened up many eyes in the community. She's a woman, one-woman campaign.
It's really important work that your friend is doing. If more people with dementia would speak up, we could really get some attention.
Sounds like some people start a new career after being diagnosed. Rose and I are starting a new adventure too. We're getting married in May.
Congratulations, Jan.
Thanks, Joe. It's a little scary when you don't know what the future holds. I haven't a clue how my disease will progress, but Rose and I have been together a long time, and we're so glad we now have a chance to celebrate that in a wedding. Too bad you all can't be there. Even though I get stuck in the house, my world stays large because of my connections with all of you. We're all different, but we share a common struggle, and none of us has given up yet. I can't say that it doesn't get me down, but I'm holding on. Do any of you have some parting words for our audience before they return to their side of the fence?
I would just like to remind people that we are in early stage of illness, not the end stage. We have a lot of living to do. My family and I are doing quite a bit of traveling. You never forget that we have dementia, but sometimes we want to let it go. We just want to have some fun.
I'm scared. I'm angry. Sometimes it's hard to tell them apart. I'm sure you get scared and angry too. Let's keep talking to each other. I know it's hard to find the words. Finding words is getting harder and harder for us. But words aren't the only way to stay connected. The way you look at me, your touch, these are ways that connect us across the fence of our different worlds.
You can leave our world of dementia. You can go out that gate. For those of you that are caregivers, someday you'll have your life back. For the professionals, this is a job, not your whole life.
We can't leave. We are stuck in the in-between.
Here's my parting words. This is what keeps me going, even though I want to stop. I would like to hear one person say, I survived Alzheimer's. I'd like to hear that before I die. I know I won't, but that's what keeps me going.
There's something I'd like to say, Joe, before I die. Have you noticed that obituaries for people who die from cancer, people talk about them. They died peacefully with a valiant struggle, after a valiant struggle with cancer, or after a long battle. They are described with dignity, and they are given recognition for a well-fought fight. You never see that with Alzheimer's or any of the dementiaries. I'd like to see that someday we could be recognized for how we struggled, battled over the effects of dementia.
Maybe we are finding the language for this illness after all. And let me add a last word about research. I agree with Joe that we hope one day the cure will happen. But in the meantime, how about spending some of that research money to develop programs for those of us that won't see the cure, but want to live as full a life as possible?
Time to let our audience out the gate. Thank you for coming and listening to our stories.
One last word as you are leaving. I promise this is my last word. 3, 4, or 5 of you will be returning someday in the future. The research supports this. A few of you will be diagnosed and you'll come to live on our side of the fence. I just want you to know that I'll be here with my hand out to welcome you.
I'll close the gate now, and thanks again for coming.
Click, click, click.
Click, clack.